just a
Oh, yeah. Oh, you did? Yeah, I've been out of town.
Excuse me, please. Excuse me.
Now, that can be a meaningful experience, but it becomes even more meaningful if you pay attention to the words that we recited or were recited on your behalf, and you reflect on them. And feel free to do so after the service as well, but not now, because we're ready to move on. Is everybody comfortable? Good, then stand up. Bottom of pages 130 and 131, we begin with the Amidah. Now, for those of you who may be new to us, there are sections where you add on a Saturday night. You are aware this is a Sunday night, so you're not adding anything. And then there were also some instructions on Sabbath, add the bracketed words. This is not Sabbath in the sense of a holiday Sabbath. This is a reference to the weekly Sabbath, so you skip the parts that are in other words, you skip the bracketed words. How's that? So that may make it a little bit
Basically,
easier.
skip all brackets.
Skip all brackets, yeah, that works. Utilize these words as you reflect and respond to God, and make them your words coming from you. So allow them to sink into you and pay careful attention to them as you respond with them. We will join at the conclusion of the Amidah, middle of pages 136 and 137. I'll cue you at that time. So we begin, the bottom of pages 130 and 131. Begins, Adonai tzvatach tiftach ufi yagidat techilateka. Lord, open my mouth, or open my lips, and my mouth will declare your praise. Our God and God of our ancestors, remember us and accept us. As you remember especially Messiah, the Son of David, through whom you bring deliverance and well-being, grace, faithful love, mercy, life, and peace on this day of Sukkot. And so, together, my God, guard my tongue from evil and my lips from speaking deceit.
And to those who slander me, let me pay no attention. Let me be humble to all. Open my heart to your Torah, and let me follow your instructions. And as to any who seek to harm me, speedily nullify their plans and thwart their purposes. Do it for the sake of your name. Do it for the sake of your power. Do it for the sake of your holiness. Do it for the sake of your Torah, that those you love may be delivered. So save with your power and answer me. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable before you, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. He who keeps harmony in the heavenly realms, may he make peace for us and for all Israel, and say, Amen. May it be your will, O Lord our God and God of our fathers, that the temple be speedily rebuilt in our days, and grant our portion in your Torah. There we serve you with all as in days of old. May the worship of Judah and Jerusalem be pleasant to you as in the days of old.
Anaknu Mapalim, Kol Takanunenu, B'Shem Yeshua, Meshikenu. We offer all our prayers in the name of Yeshua, our Messiah. And now you may be seated. Shabbat school for kids first grade on down. Excuse. The Torah instructs us all, and on the 15th day of the 7th month, that's now, when you've gathered in the fruit of the land, you shall keep the festival of the Lord for 7 days. By the way, I hope all of you noticed on your way back in how beautiful that moon is. Full or harvest moon. Anyhow, back to the text. On the first day there shall be a Sabbath rest. As I said before, this is a Sabbath. And on the 8th day, a Sabbath rest as well. We call that Shmini Atzeret. It bleeds over into an extra day, the 9th day, Simchat Torah. And it goes on to say, and you shall rejoice before the Lord your God for 7 days. We've extended that to 8 and then to 9 because there's no end to rejoicing in our God, or there should not be. You shall dwell in booths. Booth, singular, is sukkah. Booths, plural, is therefore Sukkot. Okay. You shall dwell in booths for 7 days. All shall dwell in booths, that your generations may know that I made the children of Israel dwell in booths when I brought them out of the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. So the text reads. And in a sense, I like the way in which we do things here, in that part of this involves the time when we, often the term is used, wandered in the wilderness. We actually walked in the wilderness with our God. So we got to walk out to the Sukkah, which reminds us of the walk in the wilderness. And of course, we walk back in as well. So interestingly, the Sukkah reflects and remembers quite specifically then the past, this past. Yet, Sukkot, perhaps more than any other Jewish holiday, looks to and anticipates the future. The future? How so? Well, in other words, it pictures what we call in our traditions the Acharit Hayamim, the end of days, or the Olam Haba, the age to come, in traditional terminology. That's the time when the kingdom of God will be established over all the earth, and for most of our traditions, it understands that takes place under the rule of the Messiah. And we reflect on that when we respond with Aleinu, as we often do, and we will again tonight as well. Now the booth, or the sukkah, which the Torah describes here, is just a hut, so to speak, made of very ordinary materials. The term tabernacle, which we often use for it, and you found it in the Matzor, really sounds far too fancy for what we have. And frankly, as Dr. Patrice has mentioned in the past, our sukkah is probably the best in Pinellas County and the nicest in Tampa Bay area. So perhaps it doesn't quite reflect as fully the idea of a non-fancy place. The sukkah's roof, according to Jewish tradition, based on Deuteronomy chapter 16, must be made out of the remains or the remnants of the threshing floor in the wine vat. In other words, it's not something that's intended to be able to keep out the rain and the cold. In fact, the whole structure, purposely, is flimsy and humble. And so it can be a reminder then, and it should be a reminder then, that this age is temporary and soon will come to an end. And we reflected on that in a couple of paragraphs of the Amidah. Yet this very ordinary makeshift structure is also somehow filled with holiness, as it is understood, as the age to come will in fact be. Holiness. Boy, most people get the term wrong. I don't have the time to do an aside on that. Someday grab hold of Dr. Patrice and ask her to redo her drash on holiness in Leviticus. But for now, it has to do with something that's truly extra special or extraordinary, or sacred is a term we often use for it. So it's somehow filled with holiness, as in fact the age to come will be, that kind of sacredness and specialness. It's decorated with beautiful decorations, and we only have begun to start the decorations. And it's entered with a special blessing, which we shared with you when we were inside. And so, and I use this term very carefully, it remains a shrine throughout the days of the festival, so make use of this special sacred shrine during the course of the week, whether you want to use it for lunch or dinner or afternoon tea. Especially if you don't have one outside your home. The sukkah itself pictures the age to come, when that extraordinary sacredness will pervade even the most ordinary of things. In the Haftarah passage for Sukkot, Zechariah 14, 20, and 21 reflects on this when it says, even the bridles of the horses will be called holy or sacred. And so appropriately, rabbinic tradition sees the sukkah as a reminder, not only of the makeshift shelters that we lived in during the 40 days in the wilderness, but also, the rabbis tell us, of the cloud of glory that protected our ancestors in those days as we walked with him. Therefore, we are to understand that as we enter the sukkah, we are to remember that cloud of God's presence that surrounded us in that wilderness walk with him. And that was reflected as well in the prayer in the sukkah. So then the simple, ordinary sukkah transforms itself in a way into an outpost, if you would have it, of the age to come, the Olam Haba, when God's very presence and resplendent glory will again return to earth, and he will reside among us as he lived with us, or lived among our people, during the wilderness walk with him. Not surprisingly then, the observance of Sukkot in the days of the temple was filled with an eager anticipation then of the age to come. Every day a priest would fill a golden pitcher from the pool of Siloam, bring it up to the temple as the people celebrated. Those of you who have been with us in recent years in the Temple Mount area will have been able to go from the pool of Siloam. And actually, now that they've dug it out, actually go through that same pathway from the pool of Siloam up to the temple area. And as they did this, the people celebrated. After all, it was a time for what the rabbis of old called the Simchat Beit HaShoeva, or water drawing ceremony. That went as follows. And for this you need to imagine just a little bit. Imagine a parade of people and musical instruments led by the temple priests. He held two golden pitchers, one of which was for wine, and he filled the other with water from the pool of Siloam. Now, as the musicians played, a choir of Levites chanted Psalm 118, which we will have read to us momentarily, which says, "Open to me the gates of righteousness. I shall enter through them. And by this time, the people were approaching the gates to the temple. Open the gates of righteousness, I shall enter through them. I shall give thanks to the Lord. This is the gate of the Lord, the righteous will enter through it. I shall give thanks to you, for you have answered me. And a striking closing verse here, you have become my salvation. By the way, the psalm also, the same psalm, a few verses later, 5 verses later, also contains the striking words that are considered messianic. The stone which the builders rejected has become the chief cornerstone. This is the Lord's doing. It's marvelous in our eyes. Those are the words that echoed as these people walked from the pool of Siloam up to the temple area and onto the Temple Mount. Now, as the scriptures were chanted, the whole procession then headed back, as I said, to the temple, and a silver trumpet announced their arrival, blowing 3 times. The priest then approached the altar, where 2 beautiful golden basins were waiting for him. He poured wine into one of them as an offering to the Lord, and he poured the water from the pool of Siloam into the other. With the parade, the whole ceremony, with the parade and the music and the singing, was so wonderful that one ancient rabbi wrote, anyone who has not seen this water ceremony has never seen rejoicing in their life. The ceremony, in fact, was developed from Isaiah 12, verses 3 and 4, which also looks to the future. And because it looks to the future, it's become part of the Havdalah celebration. And if you've not been to Havdalah, October 19th, in this facility, but not in this room in the facility. Anyhow, therefore with joy will you draw water from the springs of salvation. Or, translated somewhat differently, therefore you will joyously draw water from the springs of salvation. And in that day you will say, give thanks to the Lord, call on his name, make known his deeds, not among the people, but among the peoples. This is now a broader audience. Make them remember that his name is exalted. And that's why also in our Haftarah passage from Zechariah chapter 14 for Sukkot, it is described for us that in effect, the whole world, pictured by the nations or the empires that were just north of Israel and just south of Israel, Assyria and Egypt, even they will come and join in this celebration. It will truly be for the peoples, and in that sense, worldwide, as those nations pictured that. The water, therefore, was a symbol then, as you heard from the text, of the wells of salvation. And here's the interesting thing. It's being poured out, anticipated the outpouring of the Spirit of God as foretold by the prophets. Zechariah, a couple chapters earlier, said, I will pour out on the house of David and on the inhabitants of Jerusalem the spirit of grace and supplication. And then a couple chapters later reflected on that event and said, in that day, living waters will flow out of Jerusalem. Understanding all this, the sages of the Talmud said the following. Why is it called the place of the drawing out of the water? From there, listen carefully, from there they imbibed the Ruach Hashem, the Spirit of God. Wonderful messianic imagery. This is why, one Sukkot long ago, Yeshua stood among the people in the temple courts, right after the water drawing ceremony and all that we've described, and he announced to the amazed crowds, if any of you are thirsty, let them come to me and drink. For he who believes in me, or she who believes in me, or all they who believe in me, out of their bellies will flow rivers of living water. And then the text goes on to say, he spoke this about the Spirit, whom those who trusted in him were to receive. So while Sukkot looks forward clearly to the age to come, when the Spirit of God will be poured out without limit, as Joel tells us, as Isaiah tells us, as Ezekiel tells us. When that happens, and then holiness, this extraordinary sacredness, will cover the earth, that will be the time, as described in the prophets. As Zechariah 14 indicates, And as we reflected on as well when we went through Tashlik, Isaiah 11, verse 9, at that time, the knowledge of God will fill the earth as the waters cover the sea. In the meantime, in this age, we've talked about the age past and the age to come, but in this age, we often struggle to guard the extraordinary from being overwhelmed by the ordinary. However, in the age to come, the extraordinary will in fact overcome the ordinary. And the Spirit will be poured out on all peoples. And this extraordinary sacredness will cover the earth. It's the promise of the prophets. It's the anticipation of the Elena. So as we've entered the Sukkah this year, and we'll get to continue to enter it this year, may it be for us an outpost of this kind of sacred extraordinariness, or what we call holiness. For us, for each of us, reminding us of the cloud of glory that shielded us in the wilderness and still shields us today. And we should be grateful for the gift of the Spirit, which is, after all, a taste of the age to come, as well as our resource for the time in which we live. The Sukkah, Sukkot, and the water of life. That's all part of our story for tonight. Now we continue with our response. And given the nature of the holiday that we celebrate, that it's a time of rejoicing, our response is, of course, formed by the words of Kaddish, this time half Kaddish, pages 18 and 19.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה. לעמד יברקי חוצי וימליך בנחוצי בחיי כל וביום כל וחיי כל בית ישראל. בגלה ובזמן קריב ואימהו. אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבוא. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתהלל ויתהלל שמי קודשה ובריחו לעילה לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה לעם יורן בעלמה ואמרו Amen. Magnified and hallowed be the great name of God throughout the world which He created according to His will. May He establish His kingdom during your lifetime and during the lifetime of all the house of Israel, speedily soon. And let all say, Amen. May His great name be blessed forever and ever. Blessed and praised, glorified and exalted, extolled and honored, magnified and lauded be the name of the Holy One, blessed be He, whose glory transcends, yes, is beyond all blessings and hymns, praises and songs which are uttered in the world. Then say, Amen.
It is traditional during the three great holidays, often called the pilgrimage festivals, to read from the Hallel. This is one of the pilgrimage festivals, so we're going to read from the Hallel. So, Sharon, if you please come. And once again, listen to the words and the appropriateness of those words for both Sukkot and for our reflections of this evening.
This is through 29.
Oh, right.
Right.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu likro et Hallel. Deserving of praise, O Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who hallowed us with your commandments and commanded us to read the Hallel.
This is the, is that, okay. This is the gate of Adonai, the righteous can enter it. I am thanking you because you answered me. You became my salvation. The very rock that the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. This has come from Adonai, and in our eyes it is amazing. This is the day Adonai has made, a day for us to rejoice and be glad. Please, Adonai, save us. Please, Adonai, rescue us. Blessed is he who comes in the name of Adonai. We bless you from the house of Adonai. Adonai is God, and he gives us light. Join in the pilgrim festival with branches all the way to the horns of the altar. You are my God, and I thank you. You are my God, I exalt you. Give thanks to Adonai, for he is good, for his grace continues forever.
It's traditional during Sukkot to respond with a section called, often called the Hoshanot. Hoshanot, because it's often connected with Hosanna, often reminds people of praising God. But as you see from the text, that's not what the term means. These are requests we make of God, and we joyfully anticipate him responding. And you will see the centrality of the Messiah to all this as we go through the Hoshanot. What we will do is we will do this responsively. I'll get us started, and then I'll ask you to respond with first 4 lines at the bottom of page 138 and 139. I'll respond to you with the 4 lines at the top, and we'll continue right on through onto page 143. Hosanna, save, we ask of you. For your sake, our God, save, we ask of you. For your sake, our Creator, save, we ask of you. For your sake, our Redeemer, save, we ask of you. For your sake, O one who seeks us, as he seeks and saves the lost, save, we ask of you. Everyone who calls in the name of the Lord will, in fact, be saved, liberated, rescued, delivered. A voice heralds and says, and you respond,
O hark to the herald of sure salvation. I hear my beloved, his voice is nigh. He comes with his myriads of hovering angels. On the Mount of Olives, stand and cry.
the herald comes, be the shofar sounded. Beneath his tread be the mountain cleft. He knocks. At his radiant glance, the hillside shall half from the eastward be rent and reft.
Fulfilled is his ancient prophetic saying, the herald is come, with his saints around. By all upon earth shall a still small voice to the uttermost islands be heard resound.
The seed he begot and the seed he reared hath been born as a child from its mother's womb. But who then has travailed and who brought forth? And a similar thing hath been told to whom?
The perfectly pure hath achieved this marvel. What mortal hath seen such a wondrous way? Salvation, redemption in one united, the earth bringing forth in a single day.
Though he in the heights and the depths be potent, yet how can a nation at once be born? The radiant one shall redeem his people, and then at the evening it shall be born.
And up to Mount Zion shall march her saviors, for Zion hath travailed and bringeth forth. A voice is proclaiming in all her borders, thy tent place enlarged both to south and north.
Thy dwelling extend unto far Damascus, your sons and your daughters again to take. Exult and be joyful, O rose of Sharon, beholding the sleepers of Hebron wake.
Return unto me and be saved, O Israel. If only today you would hear my voice. A man hath sprung forth, and the branch of his name is David himself. 'Tis King David, rejoice.
Up, up, in the dust lie no longer buried. You dwellers in ashes, awake and sing. The desolate city shall rise imperial, to hail as aforetime her ransomed king.
The name of the wicked shall God extinguish. He grants his anointed celestial grace. Then make of our seed an eternal people, preserving forever King David's race.
And then appropriately our response to that is in fact our Tehillah Ohr Chadash, which is found in the middle of pages 142 and 143, which begins, Baruch Adonai Elohei Yisrael, ki pakat et amo v'yishlach lo padut, v'yarem lanu keren Yeshua, v'beit David avdo. And now we answer in the words that are part of our ancient prayers.
Praise be to the Lord, the God of Israel, because he has come and has redeemed his people. He has raised up a horn of salvation for us in the house of his servant David, as he said through his holy prophets of long ago, salvation from our enemies, from the hand of all who hate us, to show mercy to our fathers, and to remember his holy covenant, the oath he swore to our father Abraham, to rescue us from the hand of our enemies, and to enable us to serve him without fear, in holiness and righteousness before him all our days.
And now, as we anticipate the time that we have asked God for, that he allows us to see, we now stand and respond with the Elaine, pages 30 to 33, as we conclude our service. We look forward to the time of the world's perfection, the rule of the kingdom of God.
Aleinu לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשינו כגוי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו כחלומם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסר הארץ, ומושב יקרו השמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו וגבי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אינו, אמת מלכנו, אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום, והשב אותה, אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אינו. It is necessary for us to praise the Master of all, to exalt the Creator of the world, for he has made us distinct from the nations and unique among the families of the earth. Our destiny is not like theirs, our calling is our task. We bow down and acknowledge before the King of Kings that there is none like him. For he stretched forth the heavens like a tent and established the earth. Truly there is none like our Lord and King. As the Torah says, you shall know this day and reflect in your heart that it is the Lord who is God in the heavens above, and on the earth beneath there is none else. We hope, O Lord our God, to soon behold your majestic glory, when all abominations shall be removed, and all false gods shall be at an end. Then shall the world be perfected under the rule of the Lord Almighty, and all mankind shall call upon your name. For to you every knee must bow, and every tongue declare that you are God. Reign over us soon and forever. May the kingdom of David's greater Son be established forever. For then shall the words be fulfilled, the Lord shall be king forever, and the Lord shall be king over all the earth. On that day the Lord shall be Lord alone, and his name unique among all others. The name of Vahaya Adonai, LaMelech al kol haaretz, Vayom hahu, Yihye Adonai echad, Ushemo echad.
You may be seated.
Me too, Rabbi.
Yes, this time, you too.
Okay.
So, Gary,
Okay.
in this season of rejoicing, rejoice. Did you consider? No. It will only be briefly anyhow. Just, again, reminder of what's still in front of us. This particular Shabbat, because it's the Shabbat of Sukkot, is a very special Shabbat. All Shabbats are special, but this is sort of extra special. And then, of course, you will want to join us on Monday night for Simchat Torah. If you've never been here for Simchat Torah, by Monday night I don't mean tomorrow night. I saw some of you looking quizzically. No, a week from tomorrow night. After that, being the wonder, did I give the right evening? Yeah. And what's going to happen in the meantime? Exactly, thank you. Havdalah and game night. So we'll say goodbye to that special Shabbat of Sukkot week. And so get together and continue the theme of celebration through the course of this week. And please, do feel free to utilize the Sukkah during the course of the week. Let me think. I think that's basically all that we've got coming ahead, right? Is that enough? If it isn't, we'll try to find something else for you as well. All right, just a moment. We're going to wander on down the hallway for the oneg. However, before we wander down the hallway to the oneg, we're going to wander once again in the wilderness out to the sukkah, because we'll be doing kiddush there. And that way everyone can at least say, for tonight, you've had something to eat and drink in the sukkah. And I think Virginia has already absconded to make sure that that would happen. It's a time of great blessing. It's a time of great blessing. And we're ready to receive the blessings that God said he would, in fact, extend to us at this time of great blessing. So please rise once again as Jacob comes and leads us in the receiving of the blessings that God has promised to us. And after Kiddush in the Sukkah, the rest of the food is in the grain ballroom.
Our God and God of our fathers, bless us with a threefold blessing. Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotinu, berachenu ve'beracha ha'mishulashet. Yilarechecha Adonai ve'yishmarecha. Ya'er Adonai panav alecha v'yichunecha. Yisa Adonai panav alecha. Ve'yasem lecha shalom. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine on you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance on you and give you peace. Hag Sameach.
All right.
And Shabbat Shalom.